one of the things that all three original members of Death in June talked about when Death in June was in its formative days, possibly before we even had a name, when we were still rehearsing, back in 1980, that we wanted to be the mirror image of most people's ugliness. I think the shared life experience that Tony Wakeford, Patrick Legas and myself had was that we didn't like very many people, and we were fed up with most people's conceited natures of self-righteousness, especially for Tony and I, coming from a far left background and had seen how the far left had worked in such an unscrupulous and bad way of treating people realistically. That if this is what that is all about, we want nothing to do with it. And perhaps we're going to show them their real mirror image. A lot of people will probably point to But What Ends When the Cymbals Shatter, when that came out as being the first neo-folk, folk industrial album, but I tend to disagree. I think it started with Brown Book back in 87 and the current 93 album, Swastikas Finale. I think they were the two neo-folk, post-industrial folk, or whatever you want to call it. I don't put them in those ghettos. And we didn't do anything deliberately. It was, as I said, completely natural. So whatever people are up to now, I've taken a sidestep out of that. I don't know what people are up to. I know what the originators were up to all those years ago, and I'm still in contact with one or two of those people, such as Boyd Rice, but I don't know and I don't care what's going on. If something is meant for me to listen to, it'll come my way. I get sent a lot of stuff, and I'm pleased that some of the people I've inspired, some of the younger groups, are actually good. I like them. There have been some groups that have inspired me out of that. But I don't foresee anything. I don't spend my time thinking about it. I'm too selfish. I'm too involved with myself and those around me and my world to even possibly imagine wherever anyone else is taking anything. I'm too concerned with where I'm going to take Death in June and its survival to the ultimate end. So musical fashions mean nothing. Tony and I, just going back to the very, very beginning, were rehearsing, but we still didn't have a direction until Patrick Legas came along, and during our first rehearsal together, the very first drum beats he did to Heaven Street, I knew that was it. This is going to be a group. We didn't have the name until we were in the studio later, but it dictated itself. All three disparate musical influences that were being put into the one whole came out sounding like that. And as the years went by and Tony left, then Patrick left, I was the sort of sole flag bearer of the situation. I've utilised my own musical tastes and what I'm capable of producing myself in whatever way necessary. And until you begin working on a project, you can never tell in which direction it's going to go. I had no idea that The Wall of Sacrifice would be half industrial, half acoustic, and I thought realistically it was going to be my answer to Metal Machine music. So I thought it was going to be completely industrial sounding, but then I wrote some of the sort of acoustic songs I'm best known for on that album, such as Fall Apart or Giddy Carousel. That just came, it declared itself. But I remember the last night of mixing in the studio, John Balance from Coal had come along, and David Tibet was there. And they didn't like the presence they felt in the studio. They left. They said, there's something here we can't handle, and they left. And I knew exactly what they meant, but for me it embraces me and I embrace it. So until you start articulating something, it doesn't say how it will be, but it will have that same equation to it if you're intent on keeping it pure to the theme or life force that is Death in June, which is a particular thing in itself.